first, and they knew at that time that they were going to have to analyze all of their mistakes. So as they were performing their assessment analysis, they really dug in. Had one kid tear up and was like, I've never learned so much after a test. They spent the entire hour just digging into their notes. They get their notebooks out, just look at learning targets. They match the learning target in their note to the learning target on the test to see what they missed. And they would look back through, they'd correct them, they would write what, how they went wrong, and they'd work the problem correctly.
And she'll check and make sure you did all your assessment analysis and all your homework throughout the section of the chapter before you took that test, and then afterwards so that you're ready to take round 2.
I will have to go to round 2, but I think by round 2 I'll understand it more because I just did a couple silly mistakes. Like, I understood it, but there were some misconceptions on some of my targets, but I got help today and now I understand it.
So if you don't understand something, you learn from your mistakes, which is really helpful, and then you go through and you do extra work on the problems that you missed and the problems you got right. You obviously knew, so you don't have to do that extra work that you do with ones you didn't know.
So I created an assessment for each learning target, basically. So each learning target had a few questions to reassess for round 2. And I just put each of those on its own separate page. And then using the data from the round 1 for those students who didn't meet those targets, then I would have the student come in, and for each target they didn't meet, I would print off the questions for that target that they had to redo. That way, and I have to know which parts to print off for you. So that's why I need to know when you come. But many of you can come at the same time to test.
We can come in at lunch though, right?
You can come in at lunch to test, not for review time, but to test. Yes.
So we have to do review time?
Have to do review time before the test. So you can go ahead and schedule your wait. That's fine. Yeah. Between round 2 and round 3, the student meets with me again. We have review time, one-on-one teacher-student time, and we go over that round 2 test. We analyze the entire test, another assessment analysis. So we have to look into where they went wrong, which is easy to see because in round 2 of testing, they are writing out all of their work. They're showing everything. They're not just answering a multiple choice question. So at that point, we really can see what they're doing wrong. And then for round 3, for that assessment, it is usually a shorter test, but they have to explain every single step of what they're doing. And then the first test that I gave that way, during round 3, every single student found their mistake during the explanation. So everyone had made a mistake in the round 3 of testing, and at some point during their explanation, they realized what they had missed, and they went back up to the problem and corrected it.
I actually got 100 on the test, and I think me going through round 3 on the first test was more of a motivation to do good on the second test, because going all the way and you get frustrated with yourself and you have to do extra work with that, and so that really motivated me to study for the first place, and it paid off.
In the past math classes, we take the test one time, and once we were finished, we were just done with it. We move on to the next thing. So if we missed something, we didn't understand it, we wouldn't go back and redo it. So we just move on and learn new stuff.
And not only did before you just got the grade, even if you did do corrections and you got the good grade that you wanted, you still might not know it. You would get your grade up, but you still might not really understand it. But with this, if you do more work and you put in the effort for everything, then not only will your grade be where you want it, but you're also going to feel more confident with the grade that you have because you know it. You can apply it.
And And I'm the one that always does the silly mistakes. So after like knowing what you do and knowing how you can prevent it, it just helps us to get ready for end of course, because end of course we need to be able to show all the work that we've done this year. And if we just put our test away after we got it wrong and we can't correct it, then how are we going to be prepared for end of course? So that's why I really like it, and I feel like I'm getting better prepared than what I would have done the other way. So
I learn more. Yeah, it's a lot easier for me to learn from my mistakes. So when I see I make those mistakes on the test, then I can go back and say, oh my goodness, can't believe I made that mistake, or oh, I see what I did here, and then it's permanently in my mind from that point on.
I feel like before, like when we would write down learning targets, we were just like writing them down. You didn't really know what I was telling you to do. It's just like, hey, there's our learning target. And then by the end of the day, I don't even really feel like I could answer it. But now, like, as the whole grading system and as it's all improved, I really know, like, what each learning target means and how I can apply that with everything.
Well, now it's basically you have to go by learning targets, which is easier because you comprehend, like, what you're missing and, like, what exactly you need to work on. But, like, back when we never did the standard, you didn't really know what exactly you needed to work on. You just kind of got the general concept of, like, you need to fix that, and you didn't really know specifically what you need to fix.
Well, it takes more time, it does, but rewriting the learning targets and then, like, focusing more on just the targets that I missed, it makes me really think about the problems more, and I learn more that way.
Yeah, and like it's kind of cool to see the learning targets and see what you actually had to learn and be able to, say, I need to learn how to write, a formula explicitly or something. It's kind of cool to know exactly what you missed instead of just a problem that was on the test. So the learning targets is a really cool thing that you have to know.
I think this is the first year we've like really hit home on targets. Like we would have them up on the board and we'd read them, and then that'd be the end of it. We didn't relate how the targets relate to our work and put everything together.
at first I really did not like learning targets. I didn't see why we needed them. Teachers would write them on their board, but we never went over them, or they would just read them and go.
So the learning targets are included on the test. So the students, I think, are now making a connection between what the learning target is in the classroom every day, what the learning target is on the test, and that they connect what they're doing in class is what they are going to be assessed with on the test. And they see a connection there, I think, for the first time.
And now it's finally starting to work. You have to have like the whole picture, or the little chunks of it won't work.
At first, I looked at them as if they were silly. I just thought they were baby stuff. Like, oh, I can do summation notation.
Yeah.
But now it's like, I really can do it.
Yeah.
I really love this way that it's all set up, because before, like, most teachers, they don't even do any way of corrections. So even if you did get it wrong, you're just kind of like, oh, well, now I'm stuck. I don't know where I went wrong. I don't know how to get better. I don't know. So, but with this way, you apply everything. You know exactly where you went wrong. You know exactly how to fix it. It goes step by step, and then you retake it, and your grade gets better. I love it.
Our grade reflects of, like, what we learn. Like, with homework, everybody does their homework, but another student can just copy each other's homework and get that 100. But this is all our own work.
Miss Cummins, she actually put it in a spreadsheet. She saw that we had only like 2 people master this one column. So she knew that she had to reteach it again. And that was really helpful for her and for us, because we got the knowledge too. It's not an easy way out, if that's how people think of it, by retesting. It's actually building on your skills that you don't know. And I would really recommend it. I think it's a great tool. We would have done this a long time ago, back when I was in middle school.
Why? Why do you wish that?
I could have known a lot more. Like, my foundation would have been a lot stronger than it already is.
I feel like I didn't get that base sometimes didn't completely learn it all the way. I mean, it requires more work, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's negative because it helps you, but there is more work to it. Like teachers, they have to grade your test and then find out which problems you got wrong.
Like an individual test per individual student.
I mean, it's more,
that's not easy for a teacher, by all means. But if they really want their students to excel, they would do that.
After seeing the students really wanting to know what they missed and learning after the test is what made it worth doing. So I wanted to try it, and now I'm just a firm believer in its mastery of the standards. It's not about a test grade. It's not about anything other than learning. It's learning the material, and who's to say that they have to learn it at a specific deadline? There's no deadline to me to learn it. It's just learning.
I'd just say don't be afraid of it. I think it's cool, and I know a lot of teachers are going to say, it's a lot of work for me. But I like it because I feel like Miss Cummins really, gives 110% and wants us to be the best we can be, and wants us not just to get a good grade, but to make sure we know it. So I think it's really cool for a teacher to care that much, that we get hundreds on all of our tests and to understand the learning targets and the content.
Yeah, I would highly recommend going down that road because I learned so much more. I really do. And Miss Cummins does a really good job teaching everything.